Do you remember anyone coming up to you and saying specifically how it touched them?
Yeah.
What?
There's so many, like,
What'd they say?
There's this story that actually happened a couple of weeks ago, and it took me a while for it to process. I was coming home from like a long day, and I saw this mother and daughter sitting on the front porch of where I live. I just assumed they lived there, and I don't know, they're waiting for something. And I go to open the door, and the little girl's like staring, and then she's like, "Are you Misty?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then like there's this whole freak out for like 10 minutes. And then after I finally like calmed them down, they didn't live there in the building. They happened to just like stop by, like they were, I don't know, walking from somewhere.
Total chance.
Yeah, total chance. And then the mother expresses to me that the young girl, she started out going to ballet classes like young, and within a week she was getting a lot of negative like feedback in terms of her body, and which is so often what happens. And then so her mother took her out, and she never danced again, like in an environment, like in a studio with a teacher. But she went on YouTube and she started teaching herself to do ballet from videos of me on her own in her bedroom. She's now on full scholarship attending, I think it's the Joffrey Ballet or one of those schools that she's never had training before.
Wow.
She learned through videos of me on YouTube. And that to me, that's like so powerful about like this generation and social media and having access to things like that. But like to know that I've, maybe changed the path of her life or given her like encouragement in a way that she couldn't even get by stepping into a ballet studio is really powerful.
That happens actually all the time,
yeah,
doesn't it?
Yeah, it's wild.
It blows you away once or twice, but then over and over and over.
It still blows me away.
I mean, come on, right?
It still does. It's, and I think it's like, I had so many people that were this for me. And that it's not even about that person in particular, really, when I think of it. It's just like having somebody to look at, having somebody that you can see yourself through, and how that can really just spark something within you. Mariah Carey was that for me. Like, she truly was. And I think that it took me until I was a professional, until I was an adult, to really be able to understand and articulate why I was so drawn to her. But she was the first person that motivated me to dance. Hearing her music, seeing representation, seeing a biracial woman who was successful, whether it was subconscious or not, like I was motivated through her music. And so it's like, it's as simple as just having that person that embodies like what you want to be.
Incredibly simple. I want to get into your head here.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Can we vibe like that?
Yeah.
All right. You said one of your favorite things about live performances is collisions.
Falling.
Seriously?
Yes.
Why is that your favorite thing? How can that be?
It's just like, it's a reminder, like the juxtaposition of what ballet is perceived to be, or what we are. You know what I mean? Of like this like perfect elegance, not real, not relatable. But then, it's live theater. So you never know what you're going to get. I mean, not necessarily collisions, but like just having like things that are accidents that are real that happen in live theater. That's not something you can like go back and edit, and again, dancers are already looked at in this way of like this idea of perfection. And so I think it is amazing when something human happens, kind of removes people, especially in the audience, from that place, and then to be able to recover and win them back. Like, to me, that's like a journey that like is amazing to be on, like with the audience and like everything. It's
the
like,
high wire of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's so much about like, striving for perfection, which is not possible. It's about like how you learn to recover in those moments when you stumble and fall. And that's something that I think is so powerful in life in general.
When's the last time that happened with you?
I fell in rehearsal really bad, like last week.
And started laughing? It was hilarious?
Yes, it was hilarious. I mean, unless I like hurt myself or sprained my ankle or something. But I was rehearsing this Twyla Tharp ballet, and it's like wild dancing. We're dancing to Beach Boys music. It's a piece we're doing this spring at the Metropolitan Opera House called Deuce Coupe. And I'm like doing these crazy dances like from the 60s, and I'm running backwards, and all of a sudden I was like bam on my back, like flip over and like land. I'm like, I'm okay. And then I was like, like dying laughing. Like, it's just like, again, like it snaps you into reality of like not to take things so seriously too.
We're not perfect.
We're not perfect. Right? Yeah.
Right before you go on stage, what are your thoughts as you're about to go out there? Are you like, I don't even know where I would be in a situation like that. Consumed
it's clear.
with the details?
No.
weren't about the people in the crowd, weren't about external stuff. What's your mindset?
I think I'm most clear right before I go on stage.
Clear
meaning like there's not really like those, it's just like an openness ready to take on whatever happens, I think. But I mean, before, like at night, it's so awful. Like after performances during the season, like your mind just will not shut off, and you're just like playing over and over in your head, like choreography or what you need to do or things you want to try differently. And but you know, right before I go on stage, I'm literally just like, I'm breathing. I never am thinking about who's in the audience. I'm never thinking about like anticipating something happening in those moments.
Yeah.
I'm just like breathe and like trying to like embody whatever character I'm playing, just to like go out there and as if like I've never done the role before or rehearsed it before. Like it's a new, fresh approach, so that it's, you know, it tries to be as true to the character in the ballet in those moments that it's like real and honest.
Be the character, so to
Yeah,
speak, right?
yeah.
But what about, okay,
Sometimes I can make you crazy too. You're out in the audience, wings are just like becoming this firebird. I'm like,
right.
And people are like, what is she doing?
She's doing her job. But no, you don't go through 1, 2. I got to make sure I step left, turn right, do that.
No.
None of that stuff.
That stuff happens. I mean, that's why we rehearse as much as we do. We're in the studio 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And when we're in season performing at the Met, it's 6 days a week, I think it is, yeah. So like, that's why we do that. So it's second nature. That's why you have to start at such a young age with ballet, because all of those technical things and musical cues and counts, like none of that should be a thought in your mind when you get out there. You should be free to be in the moment, to react and respond to whatever happens.
Natural.
Again, because it's live theater and orchestras make mistakes. The music may be too fast at one point, too slow. Someone misses a step, someone falls. And so you just have to be like, if you have too much control, you can't like react and respond to something happening.
You said, I know I'll never perfect the ballet technique ever. Never perfect it.
Yeah, it's not possible.
No such thing?
No such thing.
But you keep trying. Why do you keep trying if it's not possible? It's like a golfer, like Tiger Woods or something.
I mean, first of all, it's not humanly possible. You know, even for someone like a Tiger Woods or a Serena Williams, like, yeah, you can work on your I mean, I don't even know sports like that. I'm like, what is they working on there? They're like swing or something. I don't know. But you're a human. You're not a machine. It's not like you do it, you program it in, you're like, save. No, the next day you're going to wake up and you have to start all over again and react to whatever changes in your body have happened. So I think that's what makes it exciting, though, is that you know that there's always going to be work. I think if the end goal you were like, oh, I'm going to perfect it, it's like, well, then what? It's boring. And like, what are you working towards? But it's just, yeah. I mean, yes, it would. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a debate I have
absolutely
really?
Would be boring. Yes.
I'd love to be great every time. I wouldn't be bored. I'd be pretty happy.
I mean, but then it's like, yeah, but then it doesn't feel like you're great because there's no work behind. You're not like achieving something, you know, you're just like, you know, it's going to be this and you're not going to. So I like the challenge. Right? The journey is everything. Right. I mean, especially for a classical dancer, the bulk of our time throughout our career is spent in a studio. It's not on stage. It's preparing. So if you don't enjoy that process, like it's so not worth it. And I enjoy being in the studio. I enjoy working. I enjoy pushing myself. I enjoy like approaching a role that I've maybe been doing for 10 years and having a completely different outlook on it every time I do it. Bringing in different life experiences and getting old, and some things technically you can't do as well, but then you're like, but I got this character down.
Old, 36? Please.
For ballet, it's getting up there.
I got shoes older than you, as they say. Do you ever blank out?
Oh yeah.
On stage?
Yes.
Really?
Oh yeah.
When's the last time
all of that stuff happens like so. The one I can really remember that was like a big one that has stuck with me in my mind. It was opening night of this Sleeping Beauty, and we were in Paris. And and I was opening night doing the role of Princess Florine, which is, she dances with the bluebird. And you know, sometimes like your mind, it just escapes you. And so I'm in the midst of doing this pas de deux, and I'm with my partner, and he's like partnering me, and he pulls me up from this to go into the next step, and I just am literally standing like flat feet like this, not like I should be a ballerina, nothing, like this, staring at him. And his eyes were just like, because he was like, what is happening? I literally had no idea what was next. And I was just like, oh my God, where am I? What's going on? And he just kind of like
Did he
grabbed
prompt
my
you?
hand, and then like things just happened. Like he took my hand and I was like, okay, we're going again. We're going. But he was
that
like
lasted
mortified. It felt like
heartbeat?
forever, but it was, I mean, it was
Barely a
noticeable.
heartbeat.
It was noticeable.
Was it? Did
Yeah.
the audience know?
I mean, I don't know.
Anyone say anything?
The artistic staff, yeah, of course they
Of course
noticed.
they did.
But like those things happen, and it's like, okay, now I've got to get back on track and focus. And so, you know, it's about like letting go of those things in those moments and not holding on to them as you continue to perform.
Keep it moving.
Keep it moving.
Now, what about the idea that you're packing the house with brown people? You see these folks coming,
Yeah.
right? Do you see them while you're performing?
No.
You don't. You don't see the audience at all.
No, I'm fortunate. I think that's something that brought me into ballet. You know, when I was a young girl, you know, as exposed and vulnerable as you are on the stage, that was the safest I felt. I felt, you know, the fact that all you see is black out there. And I felt like I could do and say everything I always wanted to without words. And I could express myself artistically, but no one could touch me. And I couldn't see anyone. And there was this comfort in that. And I think there is to this day. If I saw, it's just a weird thing, I think. It pulls you out of like what you're doing. You know, when you see people's reactions or you see they're not focusing or watching, I think it's a great thing just to have this like world that you're creating around yourself to just be in the moment. But to be able to, you know, I get photos, and even before I go on, people are tweeting like, you know, a photo of the line outside for the performance, and like those, or seeing at the stage door afterwards. Like it's absolutely mind blowing. I never thought in my life I would see a line that, you know, reaches from the street of, you know, Columbus Avenue into the box office of the Metropolitan Opera House.
Thousands
and that they're
of
brown
people, by the way.
Yeah, and
Not
that they're
just
brown.
10 or 20.
Yeah, no. This is packing the Metropolitan Opera House.
Here to see you.
And I mean, I think that's how, you know, I hope that like people originally, you know, that's what brought them in, but that they're falling in love with what it is they're seeing, and, you know, becoming attached to other dancers, which is like why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's not just about like me selling out my shows and then when my career's over, I'm like, all right, cool, like go back to being what it was. No, it's about trying to really change the culture and the structure of classical dance and being inclusive.
Oh, no question. You wrote that at 23, you wrote this. You said, the day I saw Raven Wilkinson in a documentary was a day my life and my purpose changed.
Oh.
Like
I didn't realize it was 23. I thought it was older. That's, yeah.
Well, that's
yes.
what it said.
No, I'm sure you're right. I don't remember anything.
But no, that was a mind-blowing kind of moment. So here you are, you worked all your life, you felt like the only one, and then you see this woman in a documentary, Ballet de Russe, right? And you're just like blown away by her. What was your mindset before and after seeing her?
I mean, I knew that there were Black dancers clearly that existed throughout history, but I never, it's hard when you don't have any real documentation. Like nothing's documented or kept like a part of our history. There are so many Black dancers that have come through ABT or other major companies that no one knows about. They're like, what? There was another Black dancer here?
Disappeared.
For whatever reason, yeah, we're not remembered or acknowledged throughout history. And so I think that has a lot to do with why I didn't connect with any Black dancer, even though I knew they were there. But to watch this documentary on the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo and to like something clicked within me. I think that I was struggling with trying to figure out how I fit in as a Black woman and Misty in the ballet world, but I just couldn't articulate it or understand why I was frustrated. But when I saw her, it was like my purpose became beyond just like reaching the goal of being the best dancer I could be or being a soloist or being a principal. It was like, wow, like I'm literally in her shoes, and that was in the 1950s. And the fact that this is still the same, they're the same issues, is mind blowing. But to see a woman that I could see myself through, that looked similar to me, that had been in like the exact situation, you know, being the only Black woman in this company, and then to see all she endured. You know, she ended up, her career at the Ballet Russe ended because her life was being threatened by the Ku Klux Klan, and she went on to dance in Europe, which is typical of a lot of Black dancers. that it was just like, wow, my purpose is to be able to tell her these stories of Black dancers, to be able to be representation and to change so that in another 50 years, there's not another brown girl like, wow, I'm still in that place, you know, that Misty is, or that Misty was, or Raven. And so I think that it just literally just flipped everything. And it gave me this like power to be able to express my experiences, knowing that it could impact someone the way she impacted me.
And then you meet her, and she becomes a dear friend, a mentor, and she shares all kinds of wisdom with you.
Yeah.
What did she tell you? What did she touch your soul with? I know she did.
I mean, there was never a time that there wasn't a new story I hadn't heard, and she could talk for hours on the phone or in person. And you know, the fact that, you know, my manager Gilda, who's a Black woman, you know, understood the importance of having someone like her in my life, or to even just like put her in those spaces that I'm in and have people learn about her. You know, she reached out and found out that she was alive and that she lived a half a block from me all this time. And she'd been supporting me and coming to my shows, and I had no idea. And the first time we met was at a conversation we did with 2 generations of Black ballerinas at the Studio Museum in Harlem. And that was just like life-changing. And to hear just like all that she went through, she has no kind of like animosity. She just sees the beauty and for what it is, for what ballet is, for what she gained and what she can pass on. And to me, that was what just set her apart from so many people I'd experienced in my life and as a mentor. And she was just constantly, you know, saying that she's there with me all the time. Like on stage, she would always say, I'm the wind at your back. Like every single performance, she would say that to me.
What do you mean by that? What do you think?
You know, I see it as like, that's what I already felt and knew. And and as much as it's her who's like really like, she's my wings, but it's like every brown dancer that has been in a position where they weren't heard, they weren't given an opportunity, they were treated a certain way. Like I feel like they're all with me and I'm dancing for all of them. And so it's just like such a powerful like thing to be able to recognize, and that's kind of like what gets me through on those tough days, or, you know, back then when it was really, really tough before I was promoted to principal dancer. But she just was always such a positive light. There was never any negativity. It was always just about how you deal with situations and like what good you can learn from them.
Wow. You're going to speak at her memorial service in like a week, right?
Yes.
At Abyssinian?
Yes, on March 25th.
What are you going to say?
I try to really just be in the moment and speak from my heart. You know, I mean, of course, I'm going to jot some things down, but, you know, to be able to have an amazing team that can, you know, we wanted to kind of give back to her what she gave to so many people. So we were the ones that are arranging and setting up the memorial for her. But to be able to be in a space where everyone's there to support and love Raven, and then to be able to just share what she's done for me and what she's done for the dance world, it's just going to be difficult, but I think beautiful to be able to express it in that space, because I know that, you know, before I was aware of her, she just wasn't given any recognition. No one knew her name, her story. To be able to be in a place where I could bring her with me and to share her story, I know that, you know, she never said it, but I know that it meant so much to her. She went her whole life and her whole career without any of that. And so for me to be able to give that to her in the time that she had left, it means so much to me. And I just don't know where I would be if I hadn't learned of her and met her.
Sure. And just think of this, you're giving it to the world too, right?
Yeah.
There's this beautiful book.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I mean, it's for young people.
Yeah, and it's her life story.
You've written the,
well, this is, I wrote the foreword for it. This was such an incredible moment.
Right?
That was my debut of Swan Lake in New York City, and Raven came on and presented me with the flowers, and I was just a mess. Right. I just wanted to get on my knees and give them back to her. But yeah, you know, even my children's book Firebird was dedicated to her, and it was really like this loosely based on our relationship, our story of mentorship.
But the beauty of this is that, I mean, she blazed the trail.
Yeah.
you're sharing her with the world, and we're better for it, right?
Yeah. I feel like I'm just kind of like an extension of her, and I'm living out and getting the opportunities that she should have had. And so that's how I see it. So it's kind of like I'm just like continuing on the stories of all of these Black dancers, and hopefully, you know, one of my goals is to be able to write a history book and to be able to like really do the work and have a space where the next generations can learn about who existed and who got them to this place and what their names were, where they danced. And so I feel like that's a part of my responsibility.
Yeah, no one did it by themselves.
No,
in other words,
absolutely,
right?
yeah.
No question about that. Your life partner, I want to bring him in here. Is it true that you guys
That's so
met?
weird that you brought it up, because I'm like wearing this necklace that I think I've never worn that he made for me, and it says M&O for Misty and Olu.
No
I
kidding.
Randomly happened to wear it today.
No kidding. How sweet is that?
Funny.
Here's the best thing about this. You guys have been together for how long?
Oh my gosh. He was my first boyfriend. I met him when I was 21.
I know, at a nightclub in New York City.
Club,
Is that
right?
true?
Nobody meets at clubs
Who
anymore.
meets in the club?
Everyone used to back in the day, I guess.
Well, I mean, then you go separate ways.
No, right.
This was for real.
It was.
You meet a guy who you can spend, I mean.
It was crazy. You know, I think that how I grew up, you know, I was not, before ballet, I was just so introverted and so shy, and like, I think that also cautious, you know, having watched the way that I was raised, and, you know, my mother married several times, and I think that all of my siblings were just pretty cautious when it came to relationships and making sure that we really were committed and put in the time and work before we would have children or get married. And so, you know, when I met Olu, he actually was just visiting. He was, I think, interning or doing something with law. He was still in law school in Atlanta at Emory. So I met him that night. We exchanged, actually Tay Diggs introduced us, his cousin, which is even more weird and random. And then the next day he went.
Guy calls you over and says, I want you to
Tay
meet.
called me over and was like, I want you to meet my cousin. I was like, who's your cousin? He's like, him. I'm like, oh, okay. We exchanged information. He went back to Atlanta the next day, and we did long distance for a year.
But time out. You don't just exchange information with any old person. Why do you exchange information? What was that? Just
right. It wasn't just like, here's my cousin.
Yeah. Nice to see you.
No, I mean, we just to be able to, you know, within moments, it was just like this connection. You know, he's biracial.
Into his eyes. He looked into mine.
You know, I think being it was like a real conversation, even though music was bumping in the back. But no, I mean, he grew up in Northern California. He's from Oakland. I'm from Southern California. Like being biracial, you know, kind of navigating through these white worlds that we both kind of were existing in ballet.
In the 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, somewhat. Really? Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I don't mess around. I'm like, I ain't got a lot of time.
Right to the point. Look, what's
Come
your
on,
deal?
no. And so I think that there was like a natural, you know, connection, and also, you know, he grew up in, you know, San Francisco area. And so his mother was on the board of directors of San Francisco Ballet. And so it's really funny that she was constantly kind of pushing him like to date a dancer. And he was like, I will never. And then he ended up marrying a ballerina. Yeah. I was like, that's just not my, like, that's not my type or whatever. And so it was really funny. We kind of touched on everything. And, you know, he'd come visit me here and there in New York, but within a year he graduated from law school and he moved to New York, and here we are.
And you guys dated forever, and then got married after a long period of time.
It's like 2.5 years we've been married, but we've been together for like 15 years or something.
You wanted to make sure.
I mean, I needed to be sure. You know, I was like, oh, okay, I think I'm ready.
It's been a decade. I want to make sure that this is right.
Yeah.
And you finally gave in.
Yeah, you know, but I think it's important to have. It was always important for me, and I think that's something that I recognized in him, and he recognized that. You know, I needed a life partner that was going to understand all that I sacrifice and give to what I do, and someone who supported me and was my equal, and so I feel like that's what I was always seeking, that I didn't want this kind of imbalanced relationship of, you know, what's expected of a woman or a man. I think we both always had that understanding. And again, I feel like I learned so much just by watching like mistakes that my mother made, and like learning from those, and like being able to really find the person that I felt was right and complimentary.
How do you guys chill? How do you guys
travel?
Yeah,
like
you don't travel enough as it is,
right? No, I know, right? It's just that's all I do. Get on a plane so I can sleep. You know? Yeah, on my off time, I like to just be like somewhere on an island on a beach where I literally don't do anything. It's not like I don't go do trip, like do activities. I'm not in activities. No, I'm like the first 3 days I'm just out. Like, and then I'm like, okay, all right, I'm here. I love to cook, and he loves to eat it, and we love to go to concerts. Like, we're big like music people, and
concerts like who? Like what?
Citizen Cope, Alice Smith, James Blake, Drake. I don't know, a lot more. Like, I like to be more in the smaller venues and see people that that are just like kind of like those Black, like soulful artists that are just chill. I'm not the kind of person that wants to, I don't want to stand. I'm like, if I could sit, that's perfect. Just listen, enjoy their gifts, and like don't need to be like, wow, going crazy. So Mariah Carey, I'll need to get to one of those soon. She was my first concert, and I haven't been to one since.
She has a new album out right now.
I know. Of course I know.
Of course you do. You're like her number one fan.
Yeah.
So the movie's going to come out soon.
Well,
at least you've got a director.
Yes.
The movie of your life story. How exciting is this?
It's so wild.
It's beyond, right?
Yeah. So that actually, we started the process quite a while ago, but I'm grateful that I have a team that's willing to be patient and wait and make sure that we have the right script, the right director, like the right team kind of lined up, because I think that it's something that can I don't know, just be like a real representation of what ballet is, what my journey was, and how people can really like benefit from kind of seeing the behind the scenes and all that goes into it, and to get like a positive message out there. Like, yes, you'll see all of the difficulties and things like that, but it's really about seeing like a Black woman and a team of amazing Black women around me, that journey. And but it's a ways away. We have no one cast. There's no script written, like none of that. No, it's too early. Oh, I don't know.
Number one question, who?
I know, right? And I really want it to be a dancer. I want it to be someone who is an actual ballerina that, then we can like kind of work with and coach with acting, which dancers are actors anyways. I mean, we're telling stories through our bodies.
Would you have to be the body double then? You'd have to do the actual
no,
moves?
well, that's why I'm saying I wanted an actual dancer so that won't have to happen. Like, I don't, I'm just kind of tired of seeing that happen, where dancers are never kind of given those opportunities and brushed aside when the films come out, they're playing these body doubles. And we all know and can see when it's not the dancer, and you're just like, oh, that's not something you can teach someone in a year. It's a lifetime of work to work on, to be able to do the most simple things like standing, or to do a bow, the gestures with your hands, the way you hold your head. So I would love to see a dancer in my role.
There's so many things to get right with this, though, right? From that to the whole, family structure thing.
Yeah, and that's important to me too.
Your performances now, to the way you interact with the public. I mean, there's a lot
it is.
going on. Is the script along?
No. There's we're working on it. We're working on it. I think that's what's important, that it's not that we're focusing on kind of like these salacious kind of negative stories that people already know about. It's like, it's out there. You can go, you don't need to see it again in a film. But just to be able to kind of highlight all of those things that kind of got me to this point, and the people around me, like what I learned from them, and I think, again, just like the Black community and how much they played a role in who I am as a person, and it's just a beautiful thing to be able to kind of like end on this positive note of all of the what's possible for the future, and all the brown ballerinas that are now a part of ballet, because they can see representation, whether it's through Disney's The Nutcracker film, where I'm portraying like a ballerina princess. Like, it's incredible that this generation is going to be able to look at a Disney film, and their idea of what a ballerina is someone who's brown, and that to me is so impactful.
And then have it routine, right? Have it matter of fact.
Exactly.
Not a big deal at all.
Not a big deal. So it's like, that's just what they learn to know. And that's the whole idea. Right. Yeah.
Are you gonna, in the movie, are you gonna get into the whole upbringing? Because
I think that's all stuff we're still working on.
It's well worn.
Yeah,
right? You're probably
but it's also a
huge
huge part of like my journey. But again, like we're still in the beginning stages, so I think we'll figure out what it is we're going to really highlight and focus. But again, I don't want it to be it's my life's work. It's the journey. It's where I'm at today, and how impactful being a representation is, not just to be able to like go back and like kind of just make people look bad, or, you know, that's not the point of it. But I'm, you know, I think that it's an important part of my story and my journey was that I went through that situation, and it was really difficult, but not really the point of the focus of the film.
I got you. So let's just talk about childhood to the extent that that makes sense here, right? So you're 2 years old. You have 3 siblings at this point. Kansas City. Mom up and leaves dad, and just heads out west, and you settle out in Southern California. And thus begins like a decade and a half of random relationships with a bunch of different guys, married, not this, that, and the other. You're moving. And there's a chaos to life.
Always.
And you're this little child, very shy, very afraid, but you're holding all these thoughts, right? Well, what's going through this little girl's head that, you know, that you're not letting out while all this stuff's going on around you?
Yeah, it's fascinating to look back on. I mean, I think that chaos was all I knew, and I just kind of grew accustomed to like that was normal. And therefore I learned to survive within it. And my surviving mechanism was to kind of just not say anything and hold in all of those thoughts. It was like a way of protecting myself and not letting anyone in. And I don't think that I was even capable of being able to express it, even if I felt safe enough to. But I think all of those thoughts were just kind of like, who am I? Like, where do I fit in this world? And like, I just never connected with anything. And so that you know, attributed to why I was just kind of like, I just thought I was this like shy, lost little girl. I didn't I connected with nothing. I mean, I think later on when I was maybe 7 years old, music was something that I started to kind of embrace. But I didn't love school. There was no sport I was playing or a part of. I wasn't doing anything. I literally was just this little girl just existing somehow in this chaotic world that, you know, my mother kind of created for us.
Disconnected from everything in your head. Yeah.
And a lot of it was, my surviving was to like not share anything about my personal life, like whether I was at school or just with other people, because it just became like this embarrassing thing. You know, when you're a young kid, you don't want people to know you're living in a motel or don't have anywhere to stay, or may not have dinner on the table.
Moving into a motel, literally, and living in like the room.
Yes.
And your mom's using the bedroom.
Yes.
With whoever.
Yes. And
it's like four or 5 kids on the floor.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
You know. And that's just unbelievably tense and crowded and cramped.
And it was like it was really amazing that it was at that time that ballet came into my life. Right. It was kind of at the lowest point in my family dynamic. And then to have ballet come into my life at that point, it literally was like, it saved me, I think, in every way. It gave me a purpose. It gave me like beauty. It gave me calm. It allowed me to literally 13 years of never expressing anything and holding all of this in, I finally could do through movement. And so, I mean, my growth was huge. You know, within a year, I was dancing as if I'd been dancing for 10 years. And so my growth was so rapid once I was given a tool, like which was ballet. Yeah. And
in a way.
Yeah. Right? And it also, again, I think it just like saved me. It saved like my soul. It saved my emotions and like all of that. And I started to like grow and become like a whole person because of ballet, because of music, because of art.
Had you also been journaling?
Yes. Yeah.
Where did that come into your head?
Yeah.
Why did you start doing that?
Because I didn't know, I couldn't say anything to anyone. And so it just kind of became a release for me.
How old?
I guess it was around the same time I started dancing. And I kept, to this day, I have every single journal I've ever written in, which was really helpful when I was writing the memoir with Cherise Jones. Right. But yeah, that was another way of expressing myself, like dance. I mean, dance, I felt like I was really saying everything I wanted to, but I really wasn't verbally saying it. So to be able to write down everything that I was going through, I think helped me to kind of process everything and then be able to function in the world.
Oh my gosh.
Not like a ticking time bomb. Time bomb, yeah.
But you let it out, right?
Yeah.
So there's all this stuff. I mean, at one point you were looking to, what's the word? Emancipation from your family.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You were living with this ballet instructor, Cindy.
Yes. Yeah.
and her husband and your mom started feeling, what a mom would feel when they get her back,
normal,
and the whole thing. And so that ends up in court, and it's on TV, and on Lisa, all these different places. I mean, and Gloria, all Red's involved, and nothing good is happening at this point, right? You're this poor little child is just going through all this stuff. You're going to depict this in the movie too.
I don't know if we're going to go into that much detail, but I feel like, yes, it is in the book. Right. We'll figure out within that story, within my memoir, like what it is we will focus on. Of course, it was a huge part. I feel like all of these things that I've experienced could not have been a better way to prepare me for the position I'm in. Think about the roles that I've taken on that are, have been mature, like storylines, and that I was always capable of kind of delving and diving into those feelings from a young age. And I think it's because I experienced everything that I did, that it gave me another perspective that a lot of the dancers I was dancing with did not have. And, I think that
I would
was...
say most people.
Yeah, most people have. But I think that... going through that experience, with the court case, it kind of just like sped everything up in terms of like me reaching my breaking point of like, okay, like I need to take control over things. And I don't think I ever had experienced that in my life up to that point. And it was within a year that I was in New York City dancing at the summer intensive program for American Ballet Theater.
The whole Firebird, it's like, okay, look, I've lived through all this stuff. If my shin hurts, I'm good. I'm going to go out here. I'm going to get this, right? That's the way this came across to me.
Yep, that's how it was.
I got this. I'm going to take it. This is my opportunity. I'm going to get it, right?
Yes.
I mean, what was your mindset doing Firebird with a broken shin?
Yeah.
and I'm going to do it anyway.
I feel like watching my mom and how strong she was, like no matter what we experienced in our life, there was never a thought of like giving up. And it was just always constantly surviving. And I think that's how I've approached everything in my life. I reached a point in my career, I was 29 years old, which is extremely late to be given an opportunity to do your first leading, principal role in a classical ballet. And for me to get that opportunity so late, it was kind of like, I don't care what happens after this, the fact that I'm going to be in a space for brown people to see that is all that matters. And so, of course, there are other ways I could have taken care of myself looking back and things like that. But in my mind, it was like, this may never happen again. I don't know if this opportunity would even come again for any Black woman in my lifetime. And so I am doing this for everyone who has gotten me to this point. And so I feel like that's what gave me the strength and power to go on stage and dance with 6 stress fractures in my leg.
And I mean, you have a plate in your leg
which
today.
Could have ended my career that night. But, I felt like even if it did, that step was beyond what I had already accomplished in the ballet world. So I was willing to take that risk. And yes, I ended up a year later back on stage with a plate in my tibia. And it's, it's a constant battle and struggle, and I have a foreign object in my body, and so that's something I'm constantly dealing with. But again, it's the work never ends. And if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't still be doing it.
I mean, wow, just take your breath away. Prince, what did he tell you that sticks with you to this day?
I think a lot of it was what he showed me. And I think similarly to Mariah, even though I've never met Mariah and she wasn't in my life in that way, but having someone who was, a Black artist who I respected so much, kind of show me and represent to me what it is to be an individual and to be okay with owning that, and to be, it's okay to be different. It's okay to be the only. I think all of those things were things that he reinforced within me, that, success doesn't always come in like the same beautiful package with a bow on it.
But you spent time in car rides with him.
We spent a lot of time together over like 5 years. Right. We were very close friends.
What would he say? What would he say specifically?
He was really, it was, I think, along the same lines of how I feel and think that, it's about bringing our people with us on this journey and through our success. And I think that's something that he wanted to do and that he was doing with me, any way he could help in, whether it was contributing financially to different Black companies and schools that I was a part of, he just really wanted to be able to help to kind of speed up the process of change within the ballet world, which I'd been working, my entire career for. And he was just understanding and supportive of that mission and goal, and having, walked in his own shoes and experienced, creating his own path. And there was no blueprint for him. I think that's the most that I really like that we shared and that we talked about and that he gave me.
Well, I saw you at the Garden with him. It was amazing.
Thank you.
Especially when you're on top of the piano.
I know. It was an unforgettable moment.
And then when he's bowing to you.
I know.
That's even more incredible. So my nieces love you, and they can't get enough of what you do. So they have questions. Do you think it's possible to go to college and be a professional ballet dancer at the same time?
I do.
You do?
I think that we're in a place now. I mean, I don't know if actually physically attending college is possible. As a classical dancer, it's a full-time job, maybe even more than that. We travel the world. I'm working 8-hour days dancing, usually without a break. But there are ballet companies now are invested in that, and having different colleges that make a commitment to these companies where they have professors come in and actually work with the dancers after hours or on breaks. And so I think it's absolutely possible to get an education and still be a professional dancer.
Sure.
Yeah.
What would you say to your younger self?
I would say to be patient. I think I was, but be more patient.
Who can be patient?
Right. I mean, I feel I'm pretty good at it. I would just say to understand that, this is your journey and your path, and that things are going to work out the way they are supposed to for you. And just to kind of embrace and learn from this journey that you're on.
What's the most meaningful thing you've done so far?
I think to be able to share the stories of Black ballerinas that no one knows about, and to be able to be representation for brown people in classical dance, and representation for change and bringing more diversity to classical ballet.
There's no retiring. There's no retiring? Is there?
Yeah, I mean, clearly it has to happen.
Really?
At some point. But when I feel that time is coming, then I will gracefully step down.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so wonderful. It was so great to see you again.
Yes,
Thank you.
I think we gotta run.